On today's episode of the Glue Guys, this is our second open because as we were recording classic Glue Guys fashion, we had breaking news that Shams Charania is reporting that Kyrie Irving will not play or practice with the team until he is a full participant. Brian and I are going to talk about that and the whole much more. And the what a day.
Yeah, what a day. Good stuff.
Welcome back to the Glue Guys. This is Mike here. Say hello, Brian. Check us out on Twitter at BKGlueGuys and Netsdaily.com. The Athletic. Get yourself behind that paywall at theathletic.com/glueguys. 50% off. Brian, we have breaking news. We had been recording a pod for about an hour now.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how I'm going to patch this all together. But yeah, keep going. Roll it.
And just as we were about to wrap up, we were kind of making light jokes about the Terrence Williams dental scam. Shams Charania of The Athletic, who you can read at The Athletic at theathletic.com/glueguys, has reported that Kyrie Irving will not be allowed to play until he is a full participant with the team. And here's the statement that Sean Marks has given to Shams Charania, and I'm sure to other people too. And I'll read it in full right now. Given the evolving nature of the situation, and after thorough deliberations, we've decided Kyrie Irving will not play or practice with the team until he is eligible to be a full participant. Kyrie has made a personal choice, and we respect his individual right to choose. Currently, the choice restricts his ability to be a full-time member of the team, and we will not permit any member of our team to participate with part-time availability. It is an imperative that we continue to build chemistry as a team and remain true to our long-established values of togetherness and sacrifice. Our championship goals for the season have not changed. To achieve these goals, each member of our organization must pull in the same direction. We are excited for the start of the season and look forward to a successful campaign that will make the borough of Brooklyn proud. Okay.
Full-throated, Mike. A full-throated rebuke.
Yeah, so that's a quite a strong statement. It really, I love the fact that they're like, Kyrie has made a personal choice, and we respect his right to choose. His body, his choice. But also, you're not playing basketball for us until you get the shot. I think we have no clue how he's going to react. And I mean, you could guess that he's going to say basically F off. I'm then not playing basketball. The range of possibilities with Kyrie is so wild. You know, like ultimately and I do not mean this as a negative. Money doesn't seem to motivate him at all, right? He has not blinked an eye about money. The championship drive, he's already won a championship, and he has said he wants to win, but maybe maybe he feels as a competitor he doesn't really care. What do you make?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's the first little bit of hardball the Nets have ever played with any of these guys at any point ever. Yeah. I am encouraged to see that they did it, because this is the kind of thing that you could ostensibly kick the can down the road indefinitely and have your hands clean of any real decision making. So I'm actually encouraged to see that they're applying some requisite pressure here. I'm thinking really about what could I predict Kyrie Irving how will he respond? Is he going to dig in like a tick and not move off this point now that he's got a little slap on the wrist, because that's maybe how he'll perceive it. They've certainly weighed the decision in a multitude of ways, and maybe they have some insight into whether or not he was anticipating something like this. But if he wasn't,
Do you think that they reached out to him before they put out this statement? Because the statement almost reads like a direct message to Kyrie, which of course it is. Do you think they said to Kyrie, "Hey, you won't play for us unless if you're a full-time player," or do you think that they were like, we're going to really put pressure on him and not tell him ahead of time? I imagine that they told him, because they must have had a conversation before they put this out with Kyrie Irving and said to him, hey, if you're not going to get the shot, we're not going to play you. Right? Don't you think that's how it would go?
I really don't know. It's so hard because like I'm just really trying to think about like what the lines of communication are right now.
That's what's tough.
Yeah, because it seems like I mean like they. I'm just using the example of Media Day. Like he was supposed to be at Media Day, like listening to Sarah Kustok on the Zach Lowe thing. Like everyone assumed like that one tweet that went out the night before from the New York Times guy. Like that was what everybody else got too. Like Sarah Kustok was saying that they had it all, on their thing, that like he was expected to be there at 9:30 or whatever, and then he just wasn't there. He was at home. So like something is breaking down with the lines of communication somewhere along the way. You're right. Like there was the other thing we were talking about, or we will talk about in the future on the other version of the next episode with the Frank Isola business, with like him having an appointment to get a vaccination.
Explain that because people are going to be listening to this. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Well, Frank, I saw this from someone else's tweet aggregating Frank Isola. So again, I apologize if this is like incorrect, but Frank Isola apparently said on his SiriusXM NBA radio show that the Nets had an appointment for Kyrie Irving to get a vaccine shot. I don't know when this would have been. This probably would have been around Media Day, maybe like a little bit after that. Kyrie had said that he was going to go and then didn't go. And that's when like things have kind of shifted in the organization of where they have like no clue what's happening with Kyrie. And so that lines up with, and as you'll hear later in the pod, because for listeners, and we recorded a whole episode, and then this news drops. We just wanted to bring you the latest. But the organization had acted like, Kyrie's going to get the shot. Like they had been acting like that. Sean Marks had been saying he was confident that they'd have the whole team. And he was also confident that James Harden and Kyrie Irving would sign long-term extensions. And now you're kind of thankful that Kyrie hasn't, because that's a whole nother issue if he had signed an extension with the team. But then suddenly sort of the organization had shifted and they acted like they had no clue what was going to happen. And I think that I sold a tweet, not that Frank tweeted it, but that someone referenced him. I think it's probably true. I think he probably did have a vaccine appointment and he decided not to show up for what the reasons that he feels. I think, as you said, this is an extremely interesting move by the Nets, because it is the first time that they have ever seemingly publicly put a hard line out to one of their players, ever. Like, they are the softest organization when it comes to sort of how much allowance they give players, and I think it's been to their benefit. I mean,
totally.
The reason why Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and then James Harden wanted to be here was that, they could come here and not feel like so much with the media obligation. They could kind of run their own little kingdoms within the organization. They can hire the assistant coaches that they wanted to. I mean, Kevin Durant has an assistant coach. He has a couple of guys that have been with him before that are now assistants with the Nets. Like the DeAndre Bembry signing, who played at Kyrie's high school, is kind of viewed as like Kyrie wanted Bembry here. Or at least that was the idea. Who knows if that's actually true. These guys have been given, full run, and this is a massive move by Sean Marks to say publicly and fully stating that Kyrie cannot be playing basketball. And it's against our long established values of togetherness and sacrifice. Now, let me ask you, Brian, does Sean Marks put this through to Harden and Durant beforehand too? Like, I think if this is being put out, everyone has got to be on board with this decision.
I think so. And I think also that the timing of it is interesting too, to wait for the day after sort of an obnoxious preseason game. Like, it's preseason, whatever, but like that Kyrie wasn't there for, I'm wondering if there was any kind of like hoops that people had to jump through with regards to like whether or not that was going to happen. Like, it just, I feel like it's an interesting time to release that after that kind of like preseason weird loss without Kyrie there, because it's like, all right, did Kevin like give them a little time to see what it would be like throughout the whole season, to be like, this kind of sucks, like this is stupid, like we need to just do something differently here. So I like, and it's kind of reminds me of like Nash and DeAndre Jordan. Like, give them enough to see what it's like and then like pull it off the table, right? Like, so it's like, give them, like, show them what it's like to be traveling without Kyrie or having the whole uncertainty circus surrounding it, like for just like a little while, and then now we can have the conversation. It really helps to kind of see the thing play out before making a decision, I think. And so I would be willing to guess that, yeah, I think that probably definitely went through those channels before coming out, for sure.
Well, and again, we talk about this later in the episode, but Woj during the preseason game last night said, and Alex Sturm, shouts to him for aggregating, that's the true journalism, and I appreciate it, that Joe Tsai, Sean Marks, Kevin Durant, and James Harden would all be the ones, and he left out Steve Nash, and everyone yelled about that. Woj did, but I imagine Steve Nash is involved with this too. They would all deliberate and decide what to do with Kyrie Irving, right? So Woj reported that last night. There's a thought out there that Woj and Sean Marks are pretty close. Like, Woj kind of will often say things as like, I'm going to guess the Nets are going to do this, and then the Nets do it like in 2 days. Mm-hmm. Like, that happens a lot. So Woj goes on TV during a Nets preseason game and says that there's this group of people that are making a decision. And then the next day we get this statement. Again, this statement is like, it is so unusual, not only for just, I mean, it's unusual for the Nets to do this, but also for any NBA team to specifically say to a superstar on the team, like, hey, like, we don't want you. Like, we don't want you if you're going to do.
Is that the takeaway?
No, yeah. We don't want you if you're going to do the thing that you're sticking to do, which is not get the shot. Mm-hmm. Now it is kind of crazy where it's like, this was like a perfect confluence of issues where Kyrie has always been a denier of science on many, many levels going way back. The flat earth stuff. We have a pandemic. How great was that? Fantastic.
That was so good.
There's a vaccine that there's been a massive amount of disinformation around. And he happens to play in a city that COVID hit the hardest and has these vaccine mandates that are for the public good. And it's like all these factors, like if he was still playing for Cleveland, he wouldn't get the shot and no one would care. You know, we would all just, I mean, there'd be some statement about it, but no one would really, like Bradley Beal said the things that he said. We've all moved on from Bradley Beal, haven't we? Like he's, you know, he hasn't got the shot, you know, it's just like the perfect Kyrie storm. And you said this to me, and I think it's true. It's like Kyrie's risking his career for Facebook memes. Like,
yeah, having your disinformation receptors open is a problem, guys. It's a bad problem. Just full stop. It's gonna be a problem. You gotta fix that in whatever capacity you possibly can. You don't want to have. You don't want to be asking so many questions that you land on flat Earth. That's too many questions. You've asked one too many questions at that point.
Yeah, so it's wild. Like, and I think, like, can we game plan it out? Like, do you think this motivates him at all to get a shot? Like, that's also the kind of thing where it's like, I think the Nets are kind of stuck because what could they possibly do to help push Kyrie towards getting the shot? Now, the one thing that they could have maybe have done is, do you know like how insanely restrictive it is if you are unvaccinated and you're trying to play in the NBA? Like, your locker has to literally be distant from everyone else. Yeah. I think you have to fly like on a different part of the plane. Like you are not allowed to eat with anyone. You have to stay in your room. Yeah. There are like all these qualifications. And I do wonder if like the way you talked about DeAndre Jordan is like, we're going to start him. You're going to see that he's bad so that you guys can know. Like with Kyrie, it's like maybe they could have gone 2 weeks into the season and be like, hey, Kyrie, like your life sucks being unvaccinated. You can't like do anything. Why don't you try to get vaccinated and make your life better? But it must be a decision organization to be like, well, if we let him play at all, then we're backed into a corner, because why let him play at all and then pull him back?
To a certain extent, I think that they maybe even tried to do that with stuff like practice at the park or whatever, that kind of stuff, like where he had to wear the mask the entire time and it was like sort of treated differently. But I think, and this is complete guesswork and conjecture, like Kyrie might be the kind of guy that even like likes that to a certain extent. You know, that's like a badge of honor that he's like willing to jump through those hoops to like, you know, die on this hill that he wants to die on now. Like it might be like feeding into that, like maybe like more menacing little troll in his ego.
It's so crazy. I mean, the things I'm going to be most interested in looking forward is like, how do Kevin Durant and James Harden react? Like if we see even a hint of like, hey man, this is bullshit that Kyrie's being blasted out like this. This whole situation could get so screwed. And I would doubt that would be because Sean Marks, if anything, has been a pretty good judge of like reading the room.
Mm-hmm.
He reads the room pretty well, and he gets a lot of information. Joe Tsai is very close to Durant and Harden. Joe Tsai is 1,000% also behind this decision too. And if they so misjudge the room that in fact that KD and Harden were like, no man, we support Kyrie fully. Like he shouldn't feel like he has to get the vaccine. Why are you guys doing this? And the whole thing could like really implode. I don't know what percentage. That's like I put that at a pretty small percentage because I can't imagine they would do that.
Yeah.
John Hollinger has a Kyrie trade idea. Kyrie back to Boston for Marcus Smart. I love it. Send him.
What's up with Damian Lillard? Where do we land on that? Let's get, I would like someone better than Marcus Smart if possible. I'm getting greedy maybe with this situation, but anyways, okay. Well, interesting. I'm glad that there's some level of. I'm glad that the Nets finally did something here, one way or the other. That's helpful. I think a little clarity is helpful.
Why do you think it was an issue to have him be a part-time player? Like, what I think this comes down to is because they were acting like, oh, if he's in and out of the lineup, it affects, everyone. It affects our. I think what it really is that they're playing the long game, knowing that if they don't force Kyrie now to get the vaccine, that if the mandate stays in place to the playoffs, it would totally F up their playoff run. It has nothing to do with the regular season, right? Because in the regular season, if he misses home games, 41 home games is a lot, but you could make up for it. In the playoffs, if you miss 4 home playoff games in a series, that is a drastic, massive difference in outcomes possibly.
I also, there's all kinds of reasons for doing this. I think I wouldn't put it past KD and James Harden to like legitimately build some resentment, and like you want to nip this in the bud before like there's a irrevocable resentment build-up situation for a guy who's now put everyone in this position where it's just very much like Kyrie. And I hate to say this because like again I've often advocated for Kyrie and said he's a chill bro, but he does have a little bit of a blind spot for how much pressure he applies to other people who are enduring the downstream effects of his decisions. Like we talk about this for just even as something as innocuous as media today, where like he doesn't show up and now KD, who very conspicuously hates being asked like a bunch of questions about other people and stuff like that, is just left holding the bag to like now do the Kyrie question defending or whatever. And like Kyrie then goes on and is like, I did everybody a favor. And like he doesn't maybe like see how that can start to really get under people's skin potentially. And this is more of like a, this is conjecture again of the EQ version, so very, very low hanging conjecture. But I do think that like getting ahead of this can also make sure that there isn't like something, future down the line, something truly divisive being sown in the ranks between a guy who's just being treated massively different from everybody else on the team.
Yeah, and like the Nets are every media availability, going forward. Like let's say Kyrie, what I imagine is going to happen is Kyrie's going to go. He's going to go like incommunicado for a certain amount of weeks. Like he's just not going to talk to the Nets. Maybe he'll do some veiled Instagram posts but like he's not going to be like, oh yeah, I'll go get the vaccine. Like that would be shocking if he just suddenly was like, yeah, I don't know, I'll go get it. Why is everyone bugging? Yeah. And so the Nets, KD, Harden and Nash they're going to be asked about Kyrie at every media availability, but it will be much less tension if everyone's on board with what just happened, than if he was there, but then if he was a part-time participant. And here's a quick, I spoke to former NBA coach George Karl from the Nuggets and Seattle Supersonics.
Look at you.
For a Knicks documentary I did for The Athletic. And George Karl was talking about the situation when Carmelo Anthony was available as a trade, and obviously the Nets could have gotten him or the Knicks. And Melo played on the Nuggets the whole year with the trade demand being out there and him wanting to be traded, but he was on the Nuggets. And George Karl said it is like nothing that Carmelo did wrong in terms of beyond asking for the trade. But he said every day sucked. Mm-hmm. Every single day sucked. You're being asked about it every day. The players are being asked about where Carmelo is going to go every day. players were coming into George Karl's office saying, George, please trade Carmelo. When it wasn't George's decision, it was Masai Ujiri's, but please trade him. This sucks. We don't want to play with a guy who doesn't want to be here, right? And so it's a little different. Kyrie hasn't made a trade demand. He probably does actually want to be here. He just doesn't want to get a vaccine shot. But it sucks when you have one of the 15 guys is drawing this much attention that everyone else has to answer questions about that one person. And that one person is a difficult person to even talk to regardless. Like, you know, Kyrie, when he does let his guard down a bit, is great to talk to, right? And he can be really open with the media, but he just doesn't like to talk to reporters. He has no relationship with the guys who cover the team, and that hurts him in the situation because all the information then has to come from Kevin Durant, James Harden, Steve Nash, and the moments when we get Sean Marks, you know, out of his suite in Barclays, and he does some media interview. So all the tension is just on everyone else but Kyrie Irving. It's just, God, it's so wild, dude. The funny thing is, and we've talked about this before, if they don't get anything from Kyrie, like, let's say Kyrie doesn't play ever again and they get nothing for him in a trade, I still think the Nets are the title favorites.
Yeah, that's the other part. Yeah.
Does this, like, there is an argument, like we kind of were talking about this part-time player, like it does a lot. Like you then just put the roles and you're like, hey, Harden, you're the point guard, you control the offense, and KD just scores 30 a game, and we go from there.
Can I say something just to put it out there? Just like, if this guy retires because of this like non-reason, it will be the most embarrassing like end to a otherwise like so potentially spectacular NBA career of any, like, it'll just be such a waste. Like, that you just couldn't get out of your own way off the internet enough to like save your like completely potentially spectacular legacy in the NBA is so bad and dumb and wasteful. I hate it so much, but that's where we are.
There would be no other career like it. I mean, people have retired for other reasons, like that have been sort of unexpected, but no one.
You're being lied.
Retired because of me.
You're being lied to, but people always talk about like the deep state or whatever. There's like incentives for people to lie to you about anti-vax stuff. They're getting paid on the internet for it, guys. It's dead simple.
It's been proven that very, like, China and Russia are fueling a lot of the disinformation around COVID because they want it to be fueled here.
Anyways,
like they want issues here.
But yeah, I'm just want to put it out there that like if this really truly, and I don't think it will, but let's say it does, like actually puts the like a bookend at this dude's career. And again, I don't think that this is going to happen, but like if it does, this is as tragic an end to a career as I've ever seen.
I don't know, man. He is so unpredictable, and there's just a continual bent about him, and it's sometimes good, but sometimes bad. He's just a contrarian. There's nothing that he will do that it's like the normal thing to do. And like, it's like, am I happy the Nets sent a statement? You know, people are saying like, oh, I'm proud of the Nets for making this stand and being this strong, you know, on this issue. Good for the Nets. And it's like, you know, they wouldn't be this strong in this issue if it didn't affect basketball and the bottom line. Like, this isn't a public health thing. This is hey, we want all of our good players thing. It's like here are the scenarios: retirement, getting traded, getting the shot, or I guess just not playing until the mandate's dropped. I mean, that's a small one.
They're not gonna roll back that mandate. Once you get that thing through, like that's just not happening. Why would you? Why would you give up ground?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Brooklyn borough president. You know, he's from Brooklyn.
Fair.
Shout out to Brooklyn. I honestly think retirement's the number one thing on the list. I think it's above getting the shot for him.
You really think so?
I think
getting the shot's still higher chance. I actually think that there's a better chance that this forces his hand. I gotta think, but maybe I'm just hoping against hope.
Well, so here's how it forces his hands. If like Kevin Durant, James Harden are on the text thread with Kyrie, all blue bubbles, all iPhones, and they're saying, "Come on, just get like we all got it." Kevin Durant's like, "I had COVID, and then I got the shot. I feel way better about my life." Like if they're like if they as his peers, the non-pawns are putting pressure on Kyrie Irving, and saying to him like, "Dude, just get you can get one shot. You don't need to get both of them. Just get one." Like, do that. That's the only way to do it. I don't think like Sean Marks means anything to Kyrie Irving. I don't think Joe Tsai means anything to Kyrie Irving.
No.
But there's one other player in this, and I don't think this means anything to Kyrie Irving either, but Kyrie is one of Nike's biggest clients. Kyrie means a lot to Nike. It means a lot to their bottom line to have Kyrie Irving playing basketball because he's one of the biggest sellers of shoes that they have. Like I can't believe that Nike isn't also trying to put some pressure on Kyrie too. Like he's I don't know.
Let me paint another picture for you. Kyrie very publicly gets vaccinated, says the same thing that he did. He like rescinds his logic or illogic the same way that he did around flat eartherism. He runs that back and becomes the patron saint of vaccine hesitancy that begets vaccination, and everyone thrives because of it. Let's paint a happy picture at the end of this.
So Kyrie Irving's gonna have this. There's gonna be a tidal wave of vaccinations because of Kyrie, right?
I would like to hope. I would like to hope. That's me. I'm an optimistic guy, Mike. Call me crazy.
I mean, one more small thing before we go.
Okay.
And then for everyone, we're just gonna tack on the whole other conversation.
This is gonna be a 90-minute episode, by the way, Mike. Just so you're ready for it.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll talk about maybe edit out some stuff or whatever, but let's just live in a world where Kyrie's not playing, right? So in the preseason game, the starting lineup was Bruce Brown, Joe Harris, KD, Blake, and James Harden. Was that it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We had talked about sort of later in the episode, like that's probably the lineup going forward. And we don't have to like do lineup machinations. The two people though that this affects the most, maybe three, Cam Thomas, Patty Mills, and then the third maybe is Javon Carter, just because you're going and looking at all guards. I think Patty Mills is going to play the same amount of minutes. Like I think ultimately they brought him here and be like, hey, you're going to be a 20-minute a game guy. You're kind of, you're more on the downside of your career. We want to preserve you. We want you to be the big shot maker at the end of games. We're not going to play you that much. Like, he's not going to play 35 minutes a game, I don't think. Javon Carter, I just like, I like him and I think he's going to play and I think he'll play more, but it's Cam Thomas who, if Kyrie doesn't play,
stands to benefit quite a bit.
Cam's going to be getting like a lot of second team run. That's kind of an exciting thing. Look at the positive. Like, we had talked about that, like Cam barely played a part, like he like disappeared during the preseason game and then came back at the end. We're going to get a lot more Cam Thomas, and thank God they drafted him because the reason why they lost to the Bucks last year is because they had Mike James playing the position that Cam Thomas is going to be playing.
You're gonna throw that all on Mike James?
Mike Jimmy?
My guy?
Mike Jimmy was not worthy of being in that spot.
Tyler Johnson still doesn't have a job, Where's he gonna go?
Stop it. Don't ruin the spot. Please don't. If I see Tyler Johnson show up, I'm going to lose it.
He's going on the thumbnail.
Actually,
there's going to be a Tyler Johnson. His name's going on the YouTube title.
But that's the SEO, baby.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm on Kyrie Irving's Instagram page, just like waiting for his story to get updated and him to be like,
everybody's a puppet. You're a puppet. You're a puppet. You're a puppet.
But like, from the idea that they're going to develop Cam Thomas and like he was going to be nurtured along the way, now it's going to be, hey Cam, you're playing 25 minutes and you're going to carry the second unit at times, and you really matter. But that's it. I think, is there anything else we should say? I mean, we'll probably talk about this 1,000 times more. If there's any developments, we'll do a quick little mini thing.
It'll be an emergent pod. I might split this up into 2 YouTubes. I think that's probably what I'll do, but we'll talk about it. Let's get out of here first.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break, and then coming back, you're going to hear a conversation about last night's preseason game. So everything after this point there's actually a lot of good Kyrie Irving conversation. We have a manufactured tension convo about whether the Nets should trade Kyrie Irving for Ben Simmons. So a lot of that still maintains. A lot of what's in that, the thoughts and the ideas. If anything, it increases my side of the argument that they probably should trade for Ben Simmons. But thank you all for listening. And there'll be a lot more Glue Guys coming up right after the break.